Hello again, Wise Bearded Dad here to give you my thoughts on the Lions drafting a quarterback after the combine. I know there's a lot of fans out there who are really high on Anthony Richardson, and I'm going to tell you right now, I would not draft him, at least until after the third round. The reason being his completion percentage is so bad, it's at the mid 50s. Guys don't suddenly improve their completion percentage when they get to the NFL, it usually goes down. He only had one game this past year where his QBR was over 100 or was 100 or more, and that was against Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington is not some powerhouse where it's like, okay, that's a legitimate game. His examples, I guess, against NFL caliber defenses, if you look at his game against Georgia, he was 18 of 37, 271 yards, with a 48.6% completion percentage, one touchdown. That's against borderline NFL defense. That gives you an idea how inaccurate he is. His best game this past season was against Tennessee. Now, granted, that's a legitimate team, but look at these stats. They're 20. He was 24 of 44, almost 500 yards passing. But again, his completion percentage was 54.5%. Two touchdowns, one interception. He finished that game with an 80.3 quarterback rating. That's nothing to take in the first round, second round. I'd even say the third round. If you come to me and say, "Hey, we're going to get him. He's going to fall the fourth round," I'd be all for it because there is a lot of potential there. But at six, no, absolutely not. Now, the second guy, who I think is going to be the best quarterback in the draft, is C.J. Stroud. This is coming from a Michigan fan. C.J. Stroud, you look at his example against Georgia, which again I think is borderline NFL defense. He was 23 of 34 for almost 350 yards, a completion percentage of 67.6%, four touchdowns, zero interceptions. Oh, and by the way, he didn't have his best wide receiver there with him either. So if he fell to six, that's not my first choice, but I could at least understand that. You look at his combine tape, very accurate passer, a lot of throw power. I would be all right if the Lions drafted him at six, but again, that's not my first choice. That's not what I want to do. The other option out there is a quarterback named Tanner McKee from Stanford. He's a big guy. He's 6'6", 230, and he's got a cannon for an arm. You look at his stats at Stanford, he's not that great. I mean, this quarterback class as a whole isn't that great. But this past year, he was 264 of 426, a completion percentage of 62% for 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. They're saying he could go in the late second, third round. As a developmental guy, that might be something to look at. But again, that's not somebody who I'd want to take there either. The other option is the quarterback from Tennessee, Hendon Hooker. I like him as a possibility in the second round, maybe third round. He's 6'4", 218. He had a big win against Alabama this past year where he had 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and threw for almost 400 yards. He tore it up against Alabama, who, again, one of those teams where I'd almost say they're NFL light. They're not quite an NFL scouting team, but they're pretty close. The only thing that's holding him back is that injury. But again, if you draft him, he's a developmental guy, so that's maybe what they want. Lastly, the only other quarterback I'd want to get in this draft would be Clayton Tune from Houston. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. He had a completion percentage of 67.3%, threw for over 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. His biggest win was against UCF, University of South Florida. Now, in that game, he went 31 of 37 for 380 yards, had a completion percentage of 83.8%, with 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. To give you an idea, Anthony Richardson, his stats, and you can look these up, are nowhere near comparable against the same opponent. So again, I don't see what the big hype is with Anthony Richardson. He's a phenomenal athlete. I think he'd be a great quarterback you could bring in certain packages, maybe like a wildcat. But his completion percentage is not there for a starting NFL quarterback. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's what I'm throwing out at you. Take it for what you want. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Please leave a like, share, comment, all that. And as always, stay wise, stay bearded.